everyone, thanks for joining us. If you've been here already, you're going to hear some of what I've said, but for anyone new who's joining, I'm Lianre. I am General Manager at 1021 Creative, which is a global insights and curation business, but I wear two hats, and I also chair campaigning for WACL, which is Women in Advertising Communications Leadership, which is why we're here today. We're going to be talking about changing the language of leadership. I'm just moving my clicker on. And I think one of the things I wanted to kind of draw everyone's attention to is, you know, WACL is an industry organisation that's got kind of a clear mission to accelerate gender equality in our industry for the good of all. We've set ourselves a big, hairy, audacious goal to make sure that we can kind of see 50% of CEO positions to be filled by women. We're not currently set to get there until sort of 2060, so we're trying to double the rate of change that we get there, bring that forward to 2045. And we have created a playbook which identifies kind of the 5 levers for change, the things that are actually going to get us there and make the difference. If you were here, you heard us just talking about promote for potential, so unlocking potential and removing some of that bias. We're now going to talk about changing the language of leadership, one of the other key factors. And it's not just the right thing to do. There's some recent BlackRock research that shows that the business case is very clear and that gender-balanced businesses actually outperform non-gender-balanced businesses consistently by nearly like 2% in terms of returns. So there's a lot of value to be created in being able to address these challenges in the industry. But without further ado, I want to ask our brilliant panelists to introduce themselves. So I'm going to start at Carol. Hello.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Carol Howley. I'm the CMO at a company called Exclaimer. We're an email solution. And I guess in terms of career, I've been at a number of brands, including Skyscanner, Ubuntu, and Best Western Festivals, Edinburgh.
Hi, I'm Sara Holt, and I'm Group Marketing Director at Merlin, so theme parks like Legoland and London Eye and Madame Tussauds, etc. And prior to here, I worked at Lego in the BBC.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Paul. I look after Uber's advertising business across EMEA and APAC. I've been at Uber about 18 months. Prior to that, worked at Amazon, Apple, Sky, and a few other places.
Hi, I'm Perla. As of yesterday, Senior Comms Planning Manager at Expedia. Last week,
Congrats.
I was at, thank you very much. Last week, I was at EA Entertainment, and before that, I was agency side at various creative and media agencies.
Just checking this one's on. It is. Right, so we don't have to share one mic. Keep this on for the panel. Yeah. So first off, we're going to just start with a question for all of you. What is a phrase or word that associated with leadership, or maybe even particularly women in leadership, that you just like to throw in the bin? I'll give you mine. It's gravitas, because I don't think that in any scenario has get more gravitas been helpful as a piece of feedback, but it is quite often levelled at women and assumed sometimes, and obviously very wrongly a lot of the time, that it's something that women don't have or need to have more of in order to be good leaders. But what we know is that actually it has no bearing on effective leadership whatsoever. So yeah, let's bin gravitas.
Awesome. So mine's a couple of words, which some of the people had already kind of thought of some answers. So to be honest, for me, it's definitely about having it all. Have you ever heard someone describe a woman and go, oh, she's having it all? Like, oh my God, she's got a child and a career, or she's got a life outside of work and a career. So for me, I think the perception and the negative connotations, and also the expectation that it sort of puts in your mind that, if you just live a normal life and do well at work and have a life, then, you're having it all and you may be asking too much or doing too much. So that for me is a big one.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, I find that so offensive, the having it all phrase. My husband is the primary caregiver at home, and he's never been once asked, does he have it all? And actually, the reality of having it all is that you're doing it all, that the expectation is that you have to do all of the work, which is horrific. So I find it really, really offensive, and I actually now call people out on it, which relates to my other phrases. The amount of times I've been told that you're too direct, and I'm like, but yeah, that's kind of not okay, particularly when businesses need different voices who ask difficult questions. That's what I'm always being told. So if it was my male peers, they've asked the challenging question. But if it's Sara, you've been too direct. So I just think that's really offensive. And I think that's an important conversation that we need to have about words like that.
Sorry. My one would be ballsy. She's very ballsy, whatever, because I think it's all wrong in so many ways. It's aggressive, unnecessarily. It's obviously a very male phrase, and it sort of doesn't really fit. And I think there's a lot of phrases like that we sort of use daily that we could lose when it comes to leadership discussions.
Agreed. Similar one to you, Paul. It's like sassy and feisty. It's also kind of got sexual connotations as well, which is kind of gross. But yeah, that one, and also like intimidating. I've been called that one. It's just a bit boring, isn't it? You don't really hear that one for men very often. And to your point, yeah, we kind of need to have more open discussions in business. So yeah, it'd be great to kind of encourage direct communication rather than kind of, other things.
No, love it. All of them can go in the bin. So yeah, we're going to be throwing language in the bin in this panel today. So, and I think it kind of leads on nicely to the next question, actually, because I think, Sara, you touched on that, the way that certain words can be positive when attributed to a man, like, challenging, but then when you flip it to a woman, it suddenly becomes a negative, like being too direct or bossy or interrogation, or, like it suddenly becomes a difficult meaning. So as business leaders, why do you think it is important to kind of mitigate against some of those stereotypes that we have around the kind of typical masculine qualities that are usually held up as what effective and good leadership looks like? There are words like dominant, strong, like assertive, competitive, things like this. Sara, it'd be great to kind of hear a little bit from you.
Well, I think that actually more traditional female traits like empathy, listening, caring, are traits that all genders need to demonstrate more of in the modern workplace today. And actually, when I think about a lot of my own personality traits and the reasons why I've been praised and got ahead, it is because of those more masculine traits, which was certainly how it used to be. And the journey that I've been on with my own bosses and leadership teams is around we need to take the time to show empathy and care. And those are more female traits, and they make for a better working environment. And quite frankly, young people today don't have the same expectations of the workplace that I put up with, the things that happened to me. So we're going to have to do that to retain best talent. And then also, I think it's pretty clear that if you have a much more empathetic, opening kind of leadership as males or women, your team will be happier, your staff will be more engaged. So I think all of that stuff we need to start challenging. And I find it very interesting because I could say this, I grew up at the BBC, which was alpha female central. And my gosh, did they have a good catfight now and again. Now, I know that's gendered and awful, that language, but what I mean by that is it was quite male aggressive behavior a lot of the time, and that wouldn't be okay now, whether you're male or female. And I think all of these conversations need to be had, and empathy and caring and how you develop teams and cultures, it's all critical to success.
I think that's actually really interesting what you were just saying about empathy, because whether it's by actual nature or whether it's by nurture, so whether women are socialized to be more empathetic or whether we're just innately more empathetic is obviously a big debate. But it does show that women do over-index in those traits, and that in business, businesses are more effective with empathetic leadership. Carol, what's your view?
I completely agree, and I kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier, but it's all about moving from those traditional traits and helping people understand, but also kind of having, as you say, that amazing kind of bringing in empathy, bringing in the opportunities, making sure that you open things up for everyone else across all kind of areas of the business is really, really important. So I think it's just such an amazing thing to have that diversity, and you see not just kind of female-led or female kind of managed businesses, but also people with diverse backgrounds. We've got, I think people are now in 20 or 30 countries within our company, and learning like how different cultures behave, different ideas, those ideas that come out when you actually allow that free expression is just amazing for businesses. So I think we all owe it to ourselves and the businesses to really explore that and to bring in the different diverse activities.
And I might actually just stick with you for the next question, because I think you've been doing some really interesting things at Exclaimer. So in terms of some of the tangible ways to kind of combat these barriers and make sure that kind of women's progression and their careers are safeguarded and supported.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's part of us wanting to be involved in today and sort of be a part of today as well. In terms of what we're doing at Exclaimer, I think we've probably made a chip in the iceberg in terms of what every company should be doing, but there's a determined effort across the business to really start standing out and doing something different. So, I helped create a course for International Women's Day. We've got kind of readership books. We've got an amazing lady, Corinna, who's in the audience, who runs our leadership books. So we've actually started kind of giving people the opportunity. We celebrate with different awards for diversity. We make sure we share people's cultural importance. If someone's taking time for something like Ramadan, why not actually share it across the business and understand it? So we've actually taken the opportunity to not just kind of award for doing great business work, but actually, all the different facets of leadership, culture, empathy, bringing things out. So, starting to share that and create kind of values champions and make sure that's a real big part. We have kind of different ways of sharing. There's a mix of kind of 360 feedback, but also, if people don't want to put their name on feedback because they feel uncomfortable, or they want to give it over voice or written, then it's starting to try and make sure that we're really open to everyone's way of working, and that you're not, whether or not you're neurodiverse or anything, it's actually making sure everyone feels valued, listened to, has an opportunity to feedback. And through the way you help them manage their careers is making sure that they can own their job, they can come to you, they can have ideas. So I think it's, as I said, we're chipping the iceberg of what I think every business should do, but the intention's there and we really care about it.
I love hearing all of that. I think one of the points that I'd love to just highlight, I'm going to go to Paul next because we're doing mic movements, is I think the way that you're showcasing different types of leadership and what leaders look like, because that's actually really critical in terms of combating some of those barriers, making sure that you do highlight a range of different styles and approaches as effective and as welcomed and recognised in the businesses that you're in. Paul, it'd be great to hear a little bit from you about that.
So when we think about everything at Uber from a diversity point of view, it's a very key part of what we do. Dara, our CEO, talks about it a lot, and it sort of comes all the way through the DNA of the organisation now. And within that, I think there's two or three key areas. One is we have some very sensible principles that we operate on, which encourage inclusivity in all ways. And those are leadership principles, all sorts of things that we all use and we all use daily. And I think that's very powerful, because once it becomes the language that helps discuss all these things, and that's really good. We have various principles. We have one called Go Get It, which is obviously, drive to success, but there's also See the Forest and the Trees, which is very much a focus on the diverse ideas from various people. And I think that's important. So we have the leadership at the top, we have the principles there. And then I think the other area that we focus on is making our ERGs work very well together and with the organisation. I think in some organisations, ERGs can be a little bit of a silo and a complaints department, rather than what we want to make it, which is very much a celebration of the differences between people. So, for example, we had a massive Pride party last week, but all the other ERGs went. Because that's what we wanted to do. It wasn't just for the Pride group. And we've done that on several occasions. In fact, 3 of my team are now leading ERGs in London. And they are all collaborating on things. And that makes a big difference to all of this debate. And then the final thing is, it's just part of, if you're a leader at Uber, you have to look at it. It's not an option. It's a key part of what we do, and we're passionate about making it right.
I love that. I think one of the things that's similar to what you were also saying, Carol, is that it's really clear that you've put kind of structures and processes in place to kind of support that. So you're actually thinking about how that works in the business at all different layers, like opportunities for wider voices to share ideas and like that. That's, again, something as a key takeaway. I think, how do we create those spaces and places that means that different types of leadership and women in leadership can thrive. So we're obviously at MadFest, so let's talk a little bit about marketing. In terms of marketing and as marketeers, I think we can see sometimes the way that the language of leadership affects the way that we even talk about brands. So, we talk about power brands or brand stature and, dominance of brands. And sometimes that leads into who we think should be leading those brands. But, do we think that women in marketing have a unique lens, especially considering the opportunity women present from a commercial point of view?
I think there's two parts to this. First of all, I'd say with the language around brands, and this is just with everything, we need to start really challenging some of it. So one really obvious one I noticed yesterday was we're in the middle of working out our master brand strategy at Merlin. And I was like, that's not okay anymore. I need to have a word. And ironically, it's a male CMO who's working out the master brand strategy in a what is a female-dominated profession. So I found that quite ironic when he was talking about it. But I think all around all of that stuff, I think there's a whole tendency to basically go back with the language of the past and the behavior of the past in brand thinking, and master brand being a really key example of the sense of like masculine words attached with branding. And when you look at like brand colors and brand thinking, the archetypes and the profiles for female targeting versus male targeting are automatically much more masculine, is dominant and grey and the stuff you might expect in the boardroom, versus female being soft and wishy-washy. Like, it's really interesting when you get into branding, it is inherently sexist and not okay. So we need to start talking about that a lot more. I also think that the way that targeting is done doesn't reflect the nuance of different types of people. So remember, main shopper household, we're calling it now, which used to be housewives with kids. Women do have a huge power over the majority of the household income because they are the primary caregivers, which is not okay in itself. So we need to think carefully about how we are targeting. And I've got a live example. We've got a campaign going out the door next week for Merlin, which is all about say yes to fun this summer. And I cannot tell you how many conversations there were where the mum in the house was going to be the primary character. And I was like, where's the dad in this? Where's the dad? Like, and I'm getting really uncomfortable, where's the dad? So like, and she still ended up being the main primary character because in research and insight and data, it was clear that that was the right thing to do, like in terms of more shots. But the whole way through, I was really clear that this has to be a modern family setting, because what we portray leads to what the impact is for many, many more people. So there is tremendous power in challenging those inherent beliefs. It's much like AI, all of it's inherently sexist because it's what's come before. So we need to constantly be asking ourselves, how have we ended up here? Can we change this? And often we will be led by the status quo as marketeers because we're trying to get things sold, and you have to appeal in the right way. But where can you push and where can't you? It's really important. We have a really, really powerful role to play.
Completely agree, and I'm going to come to Perla because I'd love to hear kind of your point of view on this with your planning on as well.
I mean, I completely agree with what you were saying. I think this is going to sound really, really basic, but also having people working on the brands that are not the target audience. I know, it's mind-blowing, but you'd be surprised how many times when, you know, we work with agencies and they put the people that they think are, you know, that are obsessed with that brand to come on there, and you know, you'll be like, well, that's great, but actually this is a massive acquisition play. So do you understand the people that don't currently like this brand? Can you please help us get some more people on there? So that's one thing. So not only is it fair, but it also means that we're able to target and, you know, reach our growth audiences. And then, I think making sure that we have the people that are working on it, and also to your targeting point, making sure that we're using psychographics, behavior, not just demographics, not just gender, not just age. Unilever does this really well. It makes a huge business impact. It's cost efficient. And it just makes sure that those brands are, you know, targeted for people that are not just one gender, which is great.
Yeah, so thinking about what people are and what they care about rather than like what they are in terms of, exactly. So we're coming to the end, but I thought it'd be really good if we could kind of ask everyone sort of one key takeaway that you'd love to leave our audience with. So maybe a piece of advice for things they can do in their own businesses or even their own homes. I'm trying to work Hi Guys out of our home, and we're outnumbering my husband sort of 2 to 1. So I don't know why we're still saying Hi Guys, but it's going in the bin. But yeah, what's one kind of piece of advice that you'd love to leave people with around STAR? So actually, Perla, I might come back to you.
Yeah, sure. I love the going in the bin thing. Stop gendering soft leadership skills. Stop saying that empathy, emotional intelligence, good communication is a female thing. Currently, females only make up UK-wide of about 30% of leadership roles. So if you do that, you're making it seem like a nice to have rather than absolutely essential for being a leader. We absolutely need those skills to make women believe that they can do more than just emulate male, quote unquote, kind of soft skills. And it makes them believe that they can be leaders, and it makes leaders better. It makes people do their best work, and it makes us adaptable as people for this kind of ever-evolving world that we're kind of entering in and marketing. So that's really important.
Thank you. And Paul, let's come to you next.
I think the first thing, find allies in all areas. I think that's important because obviously everyone's working at slightly different speeds to everybody else. If you can find mentors, I think mentors are really important. Helpful in any career regardless, but I think particularly helping you navigate the world that you might be in. And then I think the other area is just, where I think the thing that we've noticed, we hired a lot of people recently. We hired about 30 people in the space of about 12 months. What I found very interesting about that whole process is that the employees have a lot more power now perhaps than they used to have in terms of where they want to go. And what we saw is a lot of people were asking us to meet with the ERGs and before they made a decision on joining, which I think is a fabulous idea and highly recommend it. It's a bit more slower as a hiring person, but that's not a bad thing from our point of view. But it's really important to get a sense of where the company you're going to is going to where you're going to fit in and how it's going to work for you, because I think that's a good way of finding.
Love that. Sara?
We've been on a journey to get diverse voices into the team at Merlin over the last few years, and it's made an enormous difference. We now have, in terms of stats, pretty much every single marginalised group represented in the UK marketing team, which I'm incredibly proud of, not just because it was hard to find those people, but because they've made an absolutely phenomenal difference to the quality and quantity of our work and our thinking. And what I would say to all of the people in this room is, because the sorts of people who've come here, I was just thinking, are people who are already different or from a marginalised group, one way or another. And that difference is why you will have a different set of lived life experiences, a different set of knowledge. It will make you better in those important meetings when different perspectives are required. So however intersectional or just female or whatever the reason is that you're in this room, that difference and that interest is what will make you better at your job. So just embrace it and be who you are.
Amazing, thank you. I had a few ideas, but some of them have already been said. But I think one good thing on the mentoring is one thing that I found is don't go out there and sort of think, actually I'm going to ask someone, please be my mentor. Actually think about, going up to them and sort of saying, I've got a problem with this. And I've found that I've maybe adopted mentors throughout my career, and lots of them I'm still in contact with, and have some great mentors throughout that sort of still stick with me from my first job. But it's like actually going there and, I know that I'd go to this person for branding advice. I know I'd go to this person if I was struggling, with how to land a project, or I wanted to kind of get a view on some of our digital advertising. So it's actually building up that amazing bank of people that you've got mutually beneficial relationships and using them in a sense of how they can help you and how you can help them. So I think it's almost like, adopting and networking. I think everyone thinks networking really feels like this kind of horrible, slightly dirty thing that you don't really want to do. But actually, if you see networking as an opportunity to meet people, to expand your knowledge, and understand everyone hates networking, so we're all fine, we can all be uncomfortable together. But I think as you start to kind of build that group up and those people and, get to know some of the communities you can be a part of, it gives you a great opportunity to bring that to others, but also to kind of expand your own growth.
Thank you, everyone. I think some of the key things there, difference is better, embrace what makes you you. If you are in a position where you are leading a business or in a senior role, think about how you can showcase those different types of leadership styles and skills in order to not only inspire women coming through, but also kind of bring, change and break some of those pre-existing biases that start really early in everyone's careers and move that forward. I will come back to the QR code for the Wackle playbook, which people have seen, but please do download it. Thank you very much to all of our wonderful panelists. Thanks for joining us.